members of the House and those that are running in for the House can stand up for just a moment. It's hard to see you all, and somehow that's symbolic of this past session. I never always could see the members of the House, but I always knew they were there for me and for the people of New Hampshire, and I thank you for that. You know, in a little more than a year, I'm going to reach 70, and the day will come that I'll be standing before the pearly gates, and St. Peter will say to me, Stephen, having spoken to my mother, he'll say, Stephen, what makes you think you should enter the gates of heaven? And I'll say, St. Peter, in the 2014 legislative session, I stood with my brothers and sisters in the House Democratic Caucus. And Mr. St. Peter, they just said, good work. And I thank you. And with that, the gates will open. We have had such a great session. At times, I almost forget that we were the minority in the New Hampshire House. We were so often the adults in the room. We've passed so many good pieces of legislation. Legislation to help our Governor Maggie Hassan fight the war on opioids. Legislation to protect workers' rights. Legislation to protect the environment. Legislation to improve the quality of education, our state's infrastructure. But to me, the crowning jewel was the passage of Medicaid expansion. On the House floor, the Speaker said to me, he said, you know, you've really got an uphill battle passing this. And I said, Mr. Speaker, I really don't understand the opposition. 50,000 of our fellow citizens, some for the first time, are getting health care. Why is your caucus so opposed? And he told me 174 had signed a written pledge to Americans for Prosperity to, among other things, to defeat Medicaid expansion. And on the day that vote came up, amendment after amendment, vote after vote, when the day was finished, we passed Medicaid expansion with the help of 65 Republicans and a unanimous House Democratic vote. I wonder how much we accomplished this session in the minority. I can't wait to show New Hampshire what we're going to do when we take back the majority next session. As I looked at our caucus a week ago, we knew we had the quality candidates running for the New Hampshire House. But because Americans for Prosperity had threatened so many Republicans for crossing the line and working with Democrats to vote on progressive legislation that is good for our state, they've been told that they would be primaried. But when the filing period was over, 331 Republicans are running for the House, 362. We're good with that kind of enthusiasm, we can't help but lose. Thank you all.
Democratic senators, 10 of us. It's going to be a majority next time.
Sorry.
In addition to his title as Senator and Senator of the North Country, Jeff Woodburn is our Senate Democratic leader. And Jeff happens to be the next Senate President. Give it up for Senator Woodburn.
It's good to be back here. I am so proud to be a Democrat. And I'm a Democrat for the same reason I'm a teacher. Because I believe in human dignity and I believe in human potential. And I think it's Democrats that I see who we work with every day in the Senate. We have that great opportunity to make a difference in people's lives. To find the hidden genius in every person and have the great opportunity to try to build it, grow it, nurture it so it can be successful. And we are going to win the Senate, and we are going to expand opportunity. And you know, we've had a good session. We've made good success over the last 4 years, but the Republicans that we can work with to expand Medicaid, to pass the gas tax, to improve our roads, to workforce housing, and so many other areas that we need to focus on, those accomplishments cannot happen unless we win the Senate, because those Republicans are not running because they've been chased out of their party, and that is not going to help New Hampshire. It's not going to help working families. I am so proud of the 10 Democratic senators that we have, and I wanted to say one thing about one of them, because you know, I'm the maitre d' of the Senate. I just take care of all the needs of all of our senators, but it is the deputy who knows the rules and knows the policy and is a great strategist and a great mind and a great, great Democrat, and that is Donna Susie, and I'm so lucky. So, I'm going to list all of our candidates, and we can applaud at the end, or if you've got to control, just go ahead and shout out, that's fine too. We've got District 2, Charlie Chandler. District 3, Whitney. District 14, Amy Ziegman. District 15, Dan Maltus. District 16, Scott McGilvery. District 17, Nancy Clare. District 18, Senator Donna Susie. District 19, Christy St. Laurent. District 20, Senator Lou Alessandro. District 21, Martha Fuller Clark. 2, O'Shaughnessy. District 23, Alexis Simpson. Tom Sherman.
It's never kind to me come election time, but there are a lot of great people in Bedford. We love Bedford. You know, there's an old adage about governors in New Hampshire that the first thing they learn on the job is how to count to 3. And that's because getting 3 votes on the Executive Council determines whether a governor's nominee or an important contract that she brings forward is ultimately approved. Now, the votes of the Council, the decisions on how our state is managed and what our priorities are for the future, cannot be left up to those who seek to push an extreme ideology on the citizens of New Hampshire. We need competent councilors who will ensure that the best interests of families and communities always come first in state government. Now, there are a couple of remarkable things about this year's Democratic candidates for Executive Council. First is there was no recruitment process necessary to get these candidates to run. This was an organic effort. They stepped forward to serve, and we have a great crop of candidates. The second thing is there isn't a district across this state, any one of the 5, where a Democrat can't plausibly win this November. So I want you to please join me in welcoming the 5 districts that we have covered in the candidates for Executive Council this year. In District 1, up north, we have Mike Cryans. District 2 is such a safe Democratic seat that we have 3 candidates running. We have Sean Michelonis of Rochester. We have former Councilor John Shea of Nelson. And we have Attorney Andy Lewinsky of Concord. District 3, this is the Sununu seat. We have 2 great candidates. We have Josh Borden of Derry, who regrets he couldn't be here today. And we also have Beth Roth of Salem. District 5, I just want to put a plug in. I've seen former Councilor Pignatelli here with us today. Dave Pignatelli is a great leader in District 5. But this year we have an opportunity to elect Dan Weeks to the Executive Council. So, New Hampshire Democrats, here are your candidates for Executive Council. Here are the progressive leaders who will work hard to move our state forward in important ways. If we're successful in these council races, our next Democratic governor won't have to worry if he can count to 3 to get the votes for passenger rail. Our next Democratic governor won't have to worry about counting to 3 to make sure we get qualified nominees on our courts. We pick up just one more seat. We're not going to have to be concerned if our next governor can count to 3 to get funding for critical health services at So I hope you'll get out there in your own districts and work hard for these candidates for council. I hope you'll help out the candidates that are running across the state. As I said, we have a great slate. And as the only Democrat who's running for re-election this year to the Executive Council, I urge you, I implore you, send me progressive reinforcements to the Executive Council so we can move New Hampshire forward. Thank you all so much.